Well, hey there. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Emacs frustration stream. Well, first of all, I didn't announce it, and I actually had the time wrong. I'd scheduled it for this evening instead of right now. So maybe a few people missed the announcement, but that's fine. That's fine. It's the first time. Well, actually, it's not the first stream, but this is the Emacs frustration stream, which is kind of a joke, yeah, because Emacs can be frustrating. But basically, we're just gathered here today to talk about some Emacs stuff, which is fun. And don't want to take ourselves too seriously. I don't think Emacs users can or should take themselves too seriously. But there you have it. All right. So, first order of business, I'm going to let things run for a minute since I started technically early. I'm not going to rush things here. Did everyone bring coffee? It's Saturday morning. What better way than to enjoy it than sitting back with a little bit of Emacs, some good coffee. All right, so let's see here. One of the top things on my agenda was to answer an interesting comment that I got from, and I just closed it. Here we go. I thought it might be more interesting to use these streams or the stream capability to answer comments instead of answering them on YouTube itself. You know, you can't really go into depth, I think, with a good answer on YouTube because it's just you can't really put in any kind of formatting or anything. But this was from a user named Kevin who asks, why did I use a category property instead of just a header tag? This was a question on the other org mode, the first org mode GTD video that I did, the long stream in which I had to pause for I think like maybe a bathroom break or a water break in the middle. Yeah. So yeah, he asked why category property instead of the header tag. So good question. I opened up my simplified GTD setup here so we can maybe demonstrate that. So first I'm going to just run the GTD stuff. Okay. So now we should, yeah, we're good. That's projects. We'll close that. So you see here, I've got a category. I categorized this project as life improvement. Let's make that something smaller. Let's say this is, and we'll fix that. This is Spanish, not Spanish. So if you remember, if you watched the org mode simplified video, I talked about how basically when you open up your agenda view, see if I got anything in here. We ought to go ahead and maybe schedule something. Close that. Let's quit that. Actually, we should actually go to let's go to the next actions. Okay. So you see here, I set this action for getting batteries. Let's put it back to next. You see the logbook automatically updates, which is cool. So we went from state next to, from waiting today. That's cool. And I put the category of supplies here. So what I'm guessing Kevin was asking about was why don't I put, so let's see if I put a header over this. If I put a header of supplies and demote that heading. Let's go up to distinguish these. Let's put supplies header. That is supplies category, right? So if we go into Control A, G for GTD view, so there you see what it does is it pulls the category property into the agenda view, but it doesn't pull the well, actually, yeah, pardon me, it does pull the header. You can see it down here in the mini buffer. That is the supplies header. So I guess Kevin's asking it, why not just do that? Well, I guess it's nice that it does both. So for example, if I'm hovering over this, let's go in and get rid of the category now. So yeah, let's just kill it. Go back, and so now I guess it just depends on how you want your agenda organized, because now under the next actions, this next action here, it doesn't have a category. It just tells you the name of the file it's pulling it from, which maybe in your organizational scheme might be better for you. That might be something that you want. And down here, it tells you what header it's under. I guess that's fine. One thing that you're missing out on, though, let's go back to the next actions here. Let's create a next action of by computer, maybe another one, a next. Oops, we don't need to type it. Get coffee. Read Samson Agonistes, whatever you've got going on. Put those as next actions. Now let's go into Control C, Control A, G. So now all of these are just next actions. You can't, if you filter them, you're only filtering by the fact that they're in that next.org file. But if you do categories, so now under by computer, if I categorize that as shopping, let's say shopping, and get coffee, that's that'll also be shopping. Okay, so now I've categorized those two as shopping. If we go to the agenda again, we can just control, you can control XB back to that buffer. R to update this. It's filtering by that category of next, because it's from that file. If we unfilter now, you're seeing all of it, and I can filter by shopping. So I guess that's probably a better answer to that question, is that I use the category instead of the header tag. Well, first of all, it looks like you can do both. You can have the header tag and it'll show up in the mini buffer. If you've got a very detailed project and you want categories and headers because something might be nested beneath a header, I can see that you might want to use both in some instances. But in this instance, I'd say that because next actions, I guess, it depends on how you want to organize it, but I would just presume that next actions are all kind of like of similar priority. It's just a list of things that you're going through. So categorizing them so you can filter seems like it would be most valuable for that, because you might have a lot of next actions depending on like how you're using this. So yeah, I think that's a better answer, because you can filter by the category property. All right, so what else have we got here? And thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Kevin. Good question. I appreciate it. Appreciate you dropping in. Talk about Emacs. So yeah, so that's the GTD side of things. And yeah, like I said in my other video, using org mode for GTD definitely works. But alternatively, you can also use you can use GTD and org mode just on an individual project, and you might get some good mileage out of that instead of actually like trying to use it for everything. Like I sometimes say, like getting batteries and getting coffee, like that might just be good on a list on your fridge or something like that, you know? So it might be, what I might be saying is match the complexity of the project with the complexity of the system, right? So, I mean, groceries, that's a pretty simple system. You know, if you're out of something, make a note to get more, you know? Or what I sometimes do is I have like a master list of things that I usually get from the grocery store to make some of my favorite meals, or just things that I like to have around the house. So when I plan on going to the grocery store, I can just print out that master list and mark off the things I already have, you know. So you don't need to buy a big tub of coconut oil every time. You don't need to buy a thing of crushed pepper every time. So you just mark those things off the list, and you can go about it like that. So so yeah, that is the categories versus headers debate. It is the zeitgeist. It is the talk of our times. It's the scourge of the generation. What else have we got? This is fun. Let's see. I'm thinking about doing a video. If anyone's interested in this, let me know. Or I might do it either way. But I'm kind of showing the process of my personal website. It's what I wanted to do was, like, I've played around with so many different websites over the years. I found that at some point, integrating something that was easy to compose a web page really quickly, and also streamline the publishing side of it. So basically, the answer to all of that was content management systems. So the idea that you don't have to write a web page in HTML and then, you know, for example, just FTP it up to your server, and then you do another HTML page and just copy and paste the header information. So you bring in your CSS and then FTP that file. And then now you have to update all of those if you change something, or if you have a different CSS. So content management systems had that idea of let's put that into a template, right? So this loads your header, this loads your body content, that loads your footer. And if you update the header, then it updates it across the board, because it's not, you don't have actual static pages. You're pulling all this stuff, all of the content out of a database. So, but static websites have their benefits because they're faster to load. It's less load on the server. You're not running scripting languages. You know, you don't have a running PHP server or MySQL server, which is, you know, for a simple website that doesn't cause a lot of load on the server or whatever. But having static websites has the benefit of, I think, well, more, it's easier to version control, I guess. That's also easier to back up. So like if you're going to back up a WordPress site, you have to back up the database and then also the static files anyway, and then theoretically like restore the database. And it's not complicated, but it's a few extra steps. So what I wanted was, I thought best for me and maybe for other people, is to have a static website and use Git to version control it, but also to push it to the server. So it took me a little while to figure that out, but once I did, it was definitely worth it, because that's what I found is the preferred way for me. One of the downsides, so basically, let me backtrack. So there's a few different content management systems now that are local that let you do this. Static site generators, they call them. You've got Jekyll and Hugo are probably the two most popular ones, and There's a few other ones, but basically the idea is you have your files. Usually they write them in Markdown, and then you have a script that converts them to HTML, and then you use Git or FTP, whatever you want, to get it to the server. Um, and if you delete one of your Markdown files, I believe when you build the site again, it gets rid of the HTML file it makes from it. Org mode has a similar process where you can have a directory of org files, and then org mode will um, recursively um, basically convert them to HTML and put them in a folder of your choosing, like an HTML folder, let's say, and then you can do your Git version control and move them around like that. The problem is that I've found, and maybe someone has found a workaround for this, is to basically. Uh, oh wait, let me backtrack. My problem, and I hope someone has found a workaround, is that after I generate the website to HTML, I don't have a way to, let's say, if I got rid of one of those pages, I have, of course, delete the org file. But if I publish the site again, it doesn't go and delete the HTML file. So I'd have to do both basically. So that I'm sure somebody's found a workaround for that. I don't know how I would do it, but I still, even with that inconvenience, I still prefer doing this org mode process because it allows me to write in org mode, which for all these years I've gotten pretty fast and comfortable with, and then I can just export it to HTML and do the Git part, which is actually the fun part. The Git part is basically you're version controlling your directory of org files and the HTML directory, which has basically that's what it builds the website into. So you do your commit, and then when you push it, it'll push it to a remote repository, which is on another server, and it will check out the files to the web root basically. So Git actually does the publishing side of it. So all you do is you change things, add the files, commit them with Git, do the Git push, and the push action triggers you set up a hook basically. Git has hooks that certain Git action triggers a shell script. So you basically have a shell script that will run it. Actually, I think I've already started this. This document. Let's see. This is a preview of some stuff coming up. I want to look at that. Oh, where did I save it? How to publish website. Oh, I was actually working on it on my website. There it is. These are basically the pages of this is my website basically. It's a bunch of org files. That font is used for CSS. Collection of images. Jerry Seinfeld. That's supposed to be a GIF of supposed to see his computer screen flickering. I guess Emacs does not yet do animated GIFs. It's fine. Here it is, gitpublish.org. So yeah, so this goes through the whole process I'm just describing of setting up the Git server, and here is the hook right here. You see, it's pretty basic. You've got your shebang bin sh. So the git push action basically triggers this. So git -- work tree equals that. So that would be the work tree would be the document root of the website, which var www html is I believe that's the default for Debian and Ubuntu. Like if you install Nginx or Apache. Yeah, I believe that's correct. I'll double check that before I do the demonstration. And then this option here, dash getter equals where you've saved your remote repository. So I use the var lib var-lib -git dash or slash website.git. And the caveat here is for some reason, I don't know if this is still true, but when I was first learning how to do this, I was having trouble because this is basically a directory, website.git, in which you install a bare Git repository. Git init tac bear, I think is the BARE. And so it's basically an empty repository, and then you use that to basically sync your stuff onto the remote repo there. That is your remote repo basically. And for some reason, I believe it has to end with .git. Like if you don't do that, I believe it'll say, blah 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 is not a Git repository. I believe that is so. I've just been doing that for years, and I believe that is correct. Then after that, check out tacf. So I guess that command checks out the files. It checks out the current tree, I guess might be the Git terminology there. So that basically publishes your website. And to me, I prefer that to using something like SCP or rsync, because some people will build their website locally and use rsync to send it up to the server, which is good. Rsync has some really nice tantalizing benefits, and you can pretty easily script it into things. But I believe Git, it's basically like doing the same thing basically, except you're doing it with Git already, so you have like multiple sort of redundant backups of your project. It has all the other benefits of using Git. You've got your local repository. You're syncing it with the remote server. You can have it on another computer. You can just be cloning and pulling and pushing and having all your different workstations talk to each other. So yeah, for me, I mean, that's pretty good, because especially, I guess one of the benefits of using rsync is that if you delete a file locally, when you rsync it to the remote location, it will make them match. It'll delete that file up there as well. I mean, Git does the same thing, because it's always just keeping you in sync with your master branch or your upstream branch, whatever. And the amazing thing here was that I tested this. And I'm not even sure exactly what mechanism in Git is doing this, but I got the idea once that, hey, this thing I've been using for years, what if I want to push a different branch but not have it check out the files of that branch? I got worried that this was just every time you pushed anything, it was checking it out. But I believe that's wrong. That's not what it's doing. It will only check out the files if you've pushed them to the master branch, which is awesome. So what I had done was I had done a change on a different project, and I did it in a branch, and I wanted to sync that branch to another workstation and pull it down over there. So I created the new branch. I had done the changes I wanted. I pushed it up to the remote server, and it did not check out the changes to the live where the files were being hosted live on the server. So that was terrific. I was really happy with that. So that's another benefit of I think of doing it this way, is that you can do all the Git stuff you normally do, and it will only check out the files on your master branch. It's really cool. But very cool. So it's a little bit about publishing with Git in the year 2021. And yeah, here, like I was telling you, this is you write this as a Git hook. So that's this is on the server side. So you go in, you set up your bare Git repository, and that will create a .git directory, and there'll be a hooks directory in there. And I believe by default, this post receive, it has some like sample hooks in there. But I think for some reason, I'm not sure if it has a post receive one, but you just create it yourself. you do a little chmod plus X to make it executable, and then you clone. I find that it's easier when you're setting this up to set up the remote side first, and then just cloning it down. Otherwise, you just do it backward. You create your local directory, or maybe you already have one, and then you add your remote. I forget the commands. Get remote add, something like that. You add a remote repository, and then it's using it. So yeah. Yeah. So I mean, technically, this is not like Emacs related, but it's something that anybody can use. When I actually first set this up, I think I was playing around with the Jekyll static site generator CMS. That was many years ago, back in 2016, I think. So this is something, and I was working on it with a friend of mine who was a Vim guy. So this is a very ecumenical process here. The funny thing about Git and or Emacs and Vim, I was out at a brewery actually with a friend of mine who I had got over to Emacs. Well, not really. He's just looking at it. He's not decided yet if he wants to use it. But we were talking about it, and there was a guy at a table down from us who kept looking over at us and was like just kind of smiling. And then he said, "Oh," after a few minutes, he kept looking over, and he's like, "Oh, I couldn't help it, but come over and talk to you guys. I heard you guys talking about Emacs. I actually use Vim." And we talked for about 30 minutes. He told us about his Git configurations and what we were working on in Emacs. And one difference I think I've noticed in one's, I mean, what does it really matter which text editor someone chooses? But it's actually, it's kind of just two different approaches. It's not about features so much. In the Vim versus Emacs argument is like, oh well, Vim doesn't have X, or Emacs doesn't have X, or the Emacs key bindings are not as intuitive as the Vim key bindings. You have to leave the home row too much and all this. And the thing is, all of these are true. So what are people really arguing about, right? Like when both sides are right in the points they're making, but neither side is switching. Now, are we even talking about text editors anymore, or just talking about people in general? So what I've noticed is that if you like to approach your work in a very a business like just no bullshit kind of, just use the best tool for the job, and don't like why bother messing around with anything else? That seems to be something that Vim just does well, because it's, if you're already there in your terminal, like why have to go and do something in a different program? I remember like one guy I know who, he's a developer, but he actually uses, for actual development, he uses an IDE. But when he's in a server, he uses Vim, because he's like, what's the point of using anything else? It's he says like, well, I'd mentioned Emacs, and he said, well, I don't need a different terminal editor. I thought, oh yeah, because some people, I guess some people think that Emacs is mainly a terminal editor like Vim. It's like, so why learn a different terminal editor? But I realized, that's kind of what a lot of people see it as, but it's actually not a terminal editor. You can use it as one. You can install it in your server, but it's just like, it's a graphical application, just like your IDE, or just like something else that you might be using. And it's got all the same. It can have all those same GUI features, or you can kind of use it like I have here, just as your window manager, basically. So yeah, if you're if you are just want to just pick the best tool for the job and you've already kind of got your a Unix like workflow, Vim just fits in just perfectly with that. And Emacs is something different. I find that Emacs users are not so much just interested in getting down to business and picking the most simplest tool. They usually have some other kind of divergent interests. Like like I mentioned, like the reason I started using Emacs was because I saw a video. I think it was called something like Emacs for writers, like an introduction to org mode, basically. And this guy was talking about how, as a writer, org mode is great because you can outline and then do some drafting and go back to outlining, and you're kind of you're not really leaving the file. You don't have like, this is my outline over here, and this is where I'm drafting. You can kind of move things around and work very iteratively. So yeah, I think so. You'll find that, and I'm a writer. I'm not a developer. Like, I do technical writing and like marketing, copywriting, and things. So for people, I think, who are kind of are not approaching their work in a very straightforward kind of business like thing. They may have other divergent interests in things they're doing. I think Emacs kind of appeals to them in a way. So I don't know. That's my armchair psychoanalysis of Vim users versus Emacs users. Um, so yeah, and that has nothing to do with what's on screen here. Before we were talking about setting up a Git based workflow to publish your website. But yeah. All right. So what else have we got here? So one thing I made a note of, I wasn't sure how long I was going to do the stream, but I thought if we had time, I would run through some current things I've got in my dot files there. So I'm not sure. I know a lot of people publish their Emacs configurations so that other people can use them, but yeah, I don't think I'll be doing that. But basically, in here, if anyone's curious, I've got some got your package managers here. This I got from someone else, of course. It's like, if you so yeah, require package, add Melpa package manager, fresh contents, install use package if it's not installed. I think that's the most valuable thing I have in there, because I'm using a lot of other use package stuff at the moment. Here's some exwm stuff, and maggot is very helpful. Might do a video about that. I'm not sure if it's maggot or magit, but yeah. Let's see. Here's my screenshot function. So I do CSM screenshot and grab a little screenshot there. I won't do that now. Oh, the other thing I was thinking about doing, if anyone is interested, again, we're talking about writers in Emacs for writers. You can actually do standard manuscript format with LaTeX. I'm not sure if a lot of people know this. So this is a basic setting for. We'll probably do a video on this, but I'm still kind of running through the ins and outs of it. So basically, let's say you're writing a short story. Write a short story in SMF, standard manuscript format. Blah 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 blah. Paragraphs, blah blah blah. You can export this Um, it creates in a second. See here, this is standard manuscript format. Some people might be interested in that, um, but standard manuscript format was the publishing industry standard for years for um, literary magazines um, and maybe like even general interest magazines. If you were going to submit your work to a publisher or an agent, it had to be in a specific format. And I remember a friend of mine once saying, like, "Oh, like kind of joking about how it's silly that computers still have that ridiculous typewriter font." Like he thought it was kind of a hipster thing, but I believe the reasons that these computers still had that font was because publishers still wanted documents in that typewriter font, in the Courier font, because it's I think just because it's really easy to read. It's a very clear and no bullshit typeface. So even if you're not submitting your work to publishers, I think it's good actually to use standard manuscript, even if you're just editing your own manuscript. It's easy to read and very cool. So that's it. I think we've done a little over 30 minutes here, so I'm going to cut it off there. But if you joined us, thank you for watching, and going to be doing some more Emacs videos later. Got some stuff coming out this week. Should be fun. So that's about it. See you later.